Hello, welcome to this short introduction to the yin poses. So my guess is that you have done a couple of yin yoga classes. I guess you are very familiar with a lot of the poses. Maybe some poses are a little bit new to you, and that is completely fine. And also highlighting that this video, of course, I will talk a little bit about the poses, mostly about the groups of the poses. So we'll talk generally about the poses, what to think about, maybe how we actually make sure that we come into the connecting tissue and not pushing ourselves in muscles when we know we need to stop, and mostly, of course, also seeing our students and modifications for our students. And then we will go a little bit deeper, like you can see all of the poses and really notice them piece by piece and experience them. So of course yin yoga is all about experiencing something. You can't teach a pose if you haven't experienced it yourself. I would say that's very common in yin yoga, and for sure maybe you are in a vinyasa flow guiding a handstand, even if you might not be able to do the handstand, because you can really feel and learn about the alignment and the muscles and the autonomy. It's a little bit different in yin yoga. So actually to know and to see your students, like, okay, is this person going too deep? How is this person doing here and there? I think it's important to really know, okay, how does this feel to be here? And then you can also really guide your students into, maybe you should back off of this, I would do this instead of that, and know where you can put in some props, blocks, pillows, making sure that they are relaxed and having a good time in the pose so they can enjoy it and not being there clenched and tensed. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and really if you want to learn a bit more deeper about each pose themselves, you can go to the manual. Everything is super detailed described there. You can find so much information, and also we will have a live session where we will go deeper into talking about the yin poses. You will have a beautiful yin class, and if you feel in that class and after during that live session, there will also be a questioning time for you to ask all your questions and wonders. So my suggestion after this video, really make sure that you take your time and explore some of the poses. So go into the manual, maybe you choose one or two from each section. So maybe you do 2 back bends, more forward folds, maybe you do 2 of those more intense poses, just to get a feeling, and then you take your questions back to us and we will discuss them in this live session together. So first of all, why do we use props? We use props because all of our bodies are so different. So for some of us, we are super open in our hips. It's super easy for us to just fall flat down with our belly onto the floor, onto our legs. Some of us have a lot of space between our vertebrae, so when we are in a twist we can go super deep, and for some it's a little bit more tighter, and that can be both skeleton wise, of course also muscle wise, and those things actually have a super big importance in yin yoga. So even if we are targeting our connecting tissue, we still work with the whole body, and our whole body is joints, is muscles, is bones and ligaments, and the connecting tissue, of course, and it's so much in our body, and we really need to look into all of these parts to understand, okay, where are my limits, so I actually can come into my connecting tissue. So as an example, why we want to use blocks, I will showcase once again, as I have done in another video, the Asana butterfly, where we have our soles of our feet together. Our knees are falling out, and you will see so many different variations. You will see one student that tries to push their feet all the way into their bum. It's a little bit more tight, so if you see that, I would, for example, say softening a little bit, so you can actually tilt from your hip, making sure that our hips are elevated in all of our forward folds. Any forward fold you do, if it's Asana, if it's just where you fold forward with straight legs, also making sure that our hips are elevated. So maybe sit upon maybe not this tall of a block, but there are blocks that are half this size. So that could be something. You can sit upon a blanket, you can roll in your mat, or you can just guide them to, okay, place your hands by your hips, lift up, push your hips back, lean forward, and there you get that beautiful tilt. Because if we are seated a little bit more like already with a rounded back, let me showcase fully. If we're seated a little bit more like, yeah, not on our sitting bones, we are like here I'm already rounded. So for me to come in a forward fold, like it stops here. It stops right away because I can't help my forward fold with the elevation of my hips because I'm just here. So if I'm placing my hands and I'm lifting up, or I'm just getting like that elevation, I can push it back and I can really feel here, okay, here is my hip bones, and it's really a lift forward. So it's like tilting the whole pelvic floor back. So it really is doing that tilting, your chest is leaning forward, and then slowly I can round a little bit deeper here. Yes. So that is super important in all of our forward folds, to make sure that our hips are elevated, or at least that we have the right tilt in the pelvic floor. So it really is not rounding, it is tilting forward, and from there we can come forward. So we'll show it to the side as well. And now I'm over exaggerating just so you see. So we have my hips here, see, so my hands isn't in the way. And it really is like tilting. And now I'm doing a back bend because like just to showcase. And then from this tilt, I'm really tilting my pelvic. Then I can round and we get that natural neutral pelvic instead. Otherwise, if I'm rounded here, I can't do anything. I can't help myself. I will still be in a forward fold and it would be a beautiful one. But I might be a little bit frustrated with myself. Oh, I'm not coming anywhere. But just finding that tilt, pushing my pelvic, like the pelvic floor, tilting it back. And then from here I can come down, maybe even with a straight spine, and then slowly round and come deeper. So that is something to really think about in our forward folds. Number 2 to think about in forward folds, use props. So okay, say I'm here, once again I will showcase, I'm in my butterfly pose. It's also like it's a good pose to showcase because you can see me on the video, but you can apply this to any forward fold. It could be like just a Sukhasana or with straight legs, Asana, so you choose. So just opening up and then slowly folding, and maybe most of you students, they're staying here rounded. They don't come so deep, but then they're sitting here and they're tensing in their hips and they're tensing in their back. So of course, using props. So I like the bolsters. We also get out some anger issues because we can push them. But this is a good way to have a bolster. So you can have it like in a 90 degree, and then you just rest down. And then you stay there. And maybe for sure, some of your students, they will come down and they will fall all the way with their belly all the way to the floor and rest here. But then the question is, even if they are there in the most extended pose, are they in the muscles, or can they actually relax? So maybe in that case, if I can come even further down, it's better to just have a block and to place it. It's a little bit hard with the feet here, so maybe I place it on my feet, coming down. So just because we can go deeper doesn't mean that we should in yin yoga, because we're trying to find that relaxation. So block is beautiful to do that in the forward folds. So 2 things to think about in forward folds. We have very different length of our spine between the vertebrae, which means that we can fall forward very different depths. We need to use our hips so they are tilting, so we can find that forward fold, also very important. Help yourself so you can relax with your upper body, noticing that you're not holding your neck, tensing your shoulders, relaxing all the way in a forward fold. Maybe resting on a block. Yeah, so those things. Hip openers. We have tight hips, guys. They are so tight because we hold all of our stress here in our hip flexors. So taking Baddha Konasana one more time. I would say most importantly to think about our limitations in a hip pose. It can be different ones. just showcasing a couple. We had a Baddha Konasana. It can be seated, it can be laying down. We have the cow face. Our knees stacked. It can be like this. It can be with one leg extended. It can be square pose, where our feet need to be flexed. And here I will showcase this one because I can feel already, oh, it's a lot of tension in my hip here. There's a lot of tension here, I can feel it, my glutes are a little bit, oh, it's hanging. The muscles is hanging because it's heavy from the knee, dragged down by the gravity. So in this case, to make sure that, okay, I need to relax here, what do? I take a block and I support myself. Oh, that's so much nicer. And I don't support myself in the lowest, maybe I support myself a little bit higher, so I actually know that, okay, I can relax here. And if a block is too firm, if you have like cork blocks, could be a little bit too firm, you can just put a blanket, and then you can relax here. And then you can feel how you're opening up the hips, the glutes, the thighs without going into your muscles. And then from here, maybe you're taking that forward fold. Maybe it becomes too much and you stay upright. So important to help your hips so you can relax. Because if you're hanging with your knees and your legs in different ways in all of our hip openers, and that could also just be seated like this. This could be super intense for someone. Usually they are up here. I have just also to highlight my bone in my hips. I'm very open. I am super open. So this is the hip where the bone comes in, and I'm very open here. So I have a lot of room to move. A lot of people don't, especially also when we are pretty like the hip flexor that is connected on the inside and all the way up to the back on our spine. We have our hip flexor muscle connected there. It's also very tight muscle, so it will say stop very quick, which also means that, okay, maybe this is impossible for me. Maybe I'm up here with my leg. Then maybe I should recommend someone else instead of doing like square pose in this, like some people will be up here. It will be impossible, super closed. So instead of doing this, I would say, okay, you know what? Extend your bottom leg and then just place your leg here. For some it will still be up here, and that's okay, and then you take a block and you rest here. Or just instead of doing this square pose of coming super high up, okay, you know what, let's just take a cross leg position and rest a block on the outside of your knee. So it's very important to see your students, to see their knees, to see. It's sometimes very hard to see because we tend to have a lot of bigger sweaters on us, and also it takes a little bit of an eye to see how that hip is contracted or not, if it's tensed or not. But also maybe seeing or coming forward and like, yeah, maybe just massaging or putting down a little bit, and then you can feel, okay, is this muscle tense? Then we need to build up. So also another pose like this, where it's also a little bit of hips, it's child's pose. So now my voice might move away a little bit from the camera, so I will showcase and then I will talk. So coming into child's pose might look like two different cases. So first one. The hips are fully resting down on my heels. I don't need any support here. Another thing with the hips here, it can be pretty tight and I can be somewhere here. Because I can't get my hips down. And then it's super important to support that so we can rest, because if we're holding our hips, the pose isn't doing anything for us. It's just getting it worse. So highlighting with hips, we are very different skeleton-wise on how our hip bone is structured, which meaning if our hips are out rotated, if they are neutral, or if they also could be in rotated in a neutral position. And if you want to see this and understand where your students are in a class, maybe you're like, yeah, I'm doing a hip opener class, but I'm not sure if that is the right for this class, then you choose to start them in Shavasana on their backs, and just check their feet. So I will do this seated. So imagine I'm laying down and you see my feet here. So this is my neutral, actually. My neutral is super wide open. This is where I'm relaxed. Some people are here when they're in Shavasana. It means that their hips are pretty neutral. Some are like a little bit more halfway, a little bit out rotated, and some are actually like, I can't even do it because it stops my hips. But some people will have their feet leaning inwards, which means that they have our inner rotation and will have very hard to open up. And this is the skeleton. This is nothing that we can change or do or practice ourselves out of. This is our fixed limit in our bones. So if you have a maybe also if you have a smaller class, if you have a big class, you can't adjust and adapt your class for everyone. But if you have a smaller class and you are really planning on doing a pretty tight hip opener class, just to understand, okay, where are my students at? Have them laying down in Shavasana and you see their feet. Just go around, guide into a couple of breaths and just look at their feet and like, okay, I can do this, or okay, I need to do something else. A really good tip. So then let's go into our back bends from here. So in our back bends, we always use support, especially if we are on our back, like a supported bridge. You can't do a bridge without support in yin yoga because you don't want to be there holding your hips up, because you want to be able to relax in your lower back. And I'm a little bit the same for sure. Sphinx pose, you don't need props. Also, one thing to highlight here, a lot of studios have props. If you're at a gym or maybe you're hosting classes by yourself, maybe you don't have 18 bolsters for your 18 students. And of course that is okay, but it's always nice to have at least a blanket, or at least know which of the poses that you can adjust without props. So we can do a lot of poses, of course, without props, and for sure Sphinx is one of them. When we are on our forearms down and the body is laid out. Let's just showcase that. It will be the only back bend I showcase in this round, and then you will have the pictures and everything else in the manual, and I really encourage you to go in there and look. So here we have our Sphinx pose. And for sure I can rest here. I can feel a little bit that I'm hanging in my lower back, which of course is fine. I think it's important to notice, okay, how my shoulders are they like here, and I'm a little bit tense in my neck. Then for sure it's nicer to have that bolster. And with that bolster I don't need to think so much about holding myself up with my hands. And it could be just more like resting into them, and my chest and my back is resting on the bolster instead. So one thing that I would say is important in our back bends is to make sure that if we can lengthen our legs and our hips to make sure that our lower back isn't pinched, then we do that. The same if we are in a supported bridge and we have a block for support, making sure that it's not too high up and that I'm losing myself here. So really making sure that it's on the sacrum, so I'm not having that back bend, because that is not what we are aiming for. We're a little bit more aiming for an opening in the chest, the upper back, because we have a tendency to pinch our lower back if we go into it from that perspective. What more to say about back bends? So much more to say about back bends. So also, of course, noticing the shoulders and the neck. We try to keep a neutral neck as much as possible in all situations. Of course, if you're in a forward fold, it's rounded, but trying not to come into a too big of a back bend in your neck, because it can tense. Like usually you can just have a neutral neck, neutral, like a little bit of a curvature as we have in our neck. And yeah, noticing their shoulders, If people are having trouble to breathe, especially in a back bend, because usually a back bend, it is an intensity happening in our body. It's an intensity happening in our nervous system. Our heart rate is going up a little bit, and this is just what is happening overall when we go into a back bend. This is the bodily response. We go into sympathetic nervous system, a little bit more ongoing and upbeat. Yeah, the heartbeat goes up, it's a little bit more energetic. So of course, if you're noticing that people are having a hard time to keep the relaxed pose, back them off. I would also say like puppy pose or heart melting pose is also one of those poses that can be pretty intense, especially for the shoulders. So also here, keep a little bit of look for your students. Okay, maybe she needs to back off, and then you always put them in a supported bridge. Supported bridge or supported sphinx pose is very easily done for everyone. So yeah, see where your students at. And then of course we have our more intense poses. Intense poses as dragon, where you're in a low lunge position. And then of course we have our intense poses. So it could be like happy baby pose, snail pose, and everyone's favorite, dragon. So just to showcase, this is a pose, those poses that are very intense, and you guide them and people are staying 3 minutes or more. You always guide them into the sensations. No, you don't always guide them into the sensation. Dragon pose. So in those intense poses where we can use props, because people need them, otherwise they will only tense. So for example, so coming into a dragon pose usually means super high opener, super deep opener in our hip. It's a lot of tensing, it's a lot of opening on all directions here. And if people would have their hands down to the mat, it would be pretty far for a lot of them. So they would be tensing, have them on blocks or on a bolster or something so they can keep themselves upright. Because then they can help themselves a little bit, so they find that nice opening of the front of their thigh into their hip without going into that end pose where I'm just holding because I can't be here and I'm tensing and I'm putting my body into stress because it doesn't understand what is happening here. So we're backing off, and you're getting the same results here because we're not aiming for results in yin yoga. We're not aiming for results. We're aiming for relaxation. And sometimes people want to be in that dragon pose and they want to have their hands down and they want to come down to the forearms and they want to lean the upper body all the way down. And then you say to them, back off. And of course, if you have a ballerina dancer that has been doing yoga and dancing for 20 years and like boom, falls down and that is their neutral space, of course you allow them to be there. But in order to actually find that relaxation, to actually notice the sensations in a nice way, and to have a holy body that can last for a lifelong time, then you tell them to back off. And then you ask them if they don't want to, how does it feel? Can you breathe here? Can you relax here? What are you feeling? So it's very important. One more thing that I also really want to highlight when it comes to poses, also noticing our joints and our knees. So if people are coming into a pose, say once again, square pose, flexing their foot is super important to keep their knees. The same with saddle pose. In this case, some will want to have their feet right away. You don't want to flex it if you're good in your knees. For some people, you will need to have the foot out flexed in order to be able to protect your knee. And this is super individual. Some people can't be here at all. Then you put them onto their belly. You can see that in the manual as well. So also know, like, okay, if you can flex your feet, it's always good, but you don't need to. But if you feel any tension in your knees, then you back off. And if you don't back off, you try to flex your feet, and then you need to use a little bit of muscle, but that muscle is protecting the joint. And it's very important to remember in different poses. Yes, pigeon pose could also be one of those, where you come in. I will just show your pose, and you're here, and I'm flexing because I'm folding forward. I'm not unrelaxed here, especially if I'm very tight in my hips. But you don't say like flex your foot, but you say if you feel any tension in your knee, try to adjust the direction of your feet to see if that tension can relieve. And if it doesn't relieve, then you back off. And it's important because we are going to the edges of our body. We are going to the final edge of our movement in a lot of yin poses. And from there, it's important that you don't drag your muscles or your joints. Like, you can drag your muscle in an end point of your movement, it's okay. But usually if we are there, we are in our joints, we aren't in our muscles, because to be in our muscles, we need to activate our muscles to be able to protect our joints, which we aren't in a yin yoga practice, because we are relaxing our muscles, we are coming in contact with our connecting tissue, which means that our joints easily can take the biggest drag. Yes. So I think I could say 1,000 more things, as always, but my suggestion for right now, I will leave you for this, and also we will go into more of the modifications, how to use props, how to adjust someone in a pose. That will come later on. Now I just really want you to get familiar with the poses, to feel the poses in your body, to notice, okay, am I feeling this in my knee, am I feeling this in my hips, is it on the inside of my thigh, is it in my upper back, my lower back? So what are you feeling? What sensations and where in your body are you feeling these poses? So just taking them time, go through them, maybe section by section, or maybe mixing them in, taking one at a time, taking them all at the same time. It's really up to you. But my suggestion is really, okay, how can I do an adjustment in this pose? What will happen if I were more flexible or less flexible? How would this pose look if I'm a 60-year-old man who's been running his whole life and who has super tight hamstrings? Or if I'm that dancer who's been dancing and going into splits and everything for 15 years? How would that pose look? And how can I have a class, and how can I adjust and understand that pose from all of those perspectives, the whole spectrum, from my body to that body to that body? How would that feel? How would that look? And then you notice that when you put those poses in your classes, because you will have a class where 15 people will have 15 different bodies, and it will look 50 different poses in those poses will look in 15 different ways. So you will have 15 students, you will have 15 bodies, and that will be 15 different looks on those bodies in one pose. And it's your job to understand those bodies and to understand how that can feel for them, and to put yourself into their situation and see, okay, I actually need to go here and I need to put that block. Or actually I can go there and I can say, you know, do this instead, I think you could go deeper, or you need to back off, or yeah, massaging or adjusting them a little bit deeper if you see that they have the potential, but not the first thing you do. But I would say, as in all practices, we need to live it, we need to feel it, we need to have it in our bodies to be able to guide it 100%. And of course you can get a pose that you haven't done, but what does that mean for you? Like, why would you put them in a situation where you don't know what they will feel, how they will be there? Like, you can do it, but why? And that's up to you. Thank you so much. Good luck with your poses. You know you can always write to us. any questions about the poses, because this is a lot. It's a lot of words, it's a lot of knowledge, it's a lot of feeling into your body. So take it bit by bit and really feel into what feels best for you. And if you have any questions about, okay, my student did this, I'm feeling pain here, come to us. We're here for you. Thank you.